If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener.
Okay.
Yes, dear listener. Freaking.
Yep.
When
Get
is
well
spring
soon.
coming?
Get well soon. Epica, Fleshgod, Apocalypse, The Great Tribulation.
Uh-oh.
The end of 2022 and beginning of 2023 saw some legendary collaborations, like from the likes of Nita Strauss. I hate reading people's names. Can you just read the names? Because I always feel
Nita
like
Strauss, Alyssa White Gloose.
Current arch enemy frontwoman, to Lamb of God, creator of this song, which was released on an EP called The Alchemy Project. This is the only song I liked on the EP, and this particular collaboration 100% made sense. Here we go. Epica, Fleshgod, Apocalypse, The Great Tribulation.
The Great Tribulation. Here we go. You got the lyrics?
You want me to send them to you?
Heavy this band was. Yeah. Man is heavy, bruh. shredding. This is shredding. Okay, that was Epica. That was written in 2022. It's a pretty recent album from Fleshgod, but it looks to me like I've never seen it. It's basically the opening Latin is basically, this is the worst I've ever seen the world. It says, a miserable world, such fury no longer arises after the things we've undergone. Something like that to that degree.
Okay, I mean, the next one kind of plays off it too. This is the greatest tribulation. Don't give in to the fear. It will cause pain and suffering. We can't escape. It's part of our evolution. So
in our tradition, we were raised with this concept that there is this coming great tribulation.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't believe that anymore. I don't know what you believe about that. I mean, I think you're post.
I believe it came.
You're post mill, so
yeah.
You would have to believe that it's already happened.
Yeah, it lines up too well with 70 AD, especially. You know what solidified it for me was that time we were driving around in Augusta listening to the Wars of the Jews. It was over when I was hearing that. The more stuff that they were just reading from a Jewish perspective that is not going to want to confirm the scriptures, I was like, this is it. Like, it's over.
I was talking to one of my atheist buddies yesterday, and he was like, Jesus said he was going to return in the generation of his followers, and that was obviously wrong. And I said,
you're wrong.
I said, show me where he said return. He never said return. He said coming, and coming is code in the Old Testament for God is going to show up and judge your nation, and most of the time that's done by sending another nation to go and destroy you. Yep. So when God comes to your nation, what it means is he's sending the Babylonians to go fuck you up because you're horrible to immigrants. So when Jesus talks about his coming, he is saying, I am Yahweh and I'm going to bring judgment. Mm-hmm. And that's why in one of his parables, he explicitly mentions the Roman legions as his armies. He says the king was enraged, and he sent his armies to that town and killed those murderers and burned their city.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but in the tradition we were brought up in, we were told that the world was going to get progressively more and more and more bad. Mm-hmm. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And so it gets so bad that God basically says, all right, I'm taking all the Christians. We're out of here.
Right. Time's up.
You guys get 7 years to run the earth into the ground, and then the Antichrist is going to show up. Everyone's going to get a Neuralink or a 666 tattoo. I think it's Neuralink right now.
Forehead. Right hand.
I'm not going to lie to you. The Neuralink stuff is kind of crazy to me, bro. Like, you put a chip in your mind, and it reorients, like... Well, one is, like, you're supposed to be able to communicate telepathically. So if you've got the chip and I've got the chip, we can communicate telepathically.
Can you just let some information, not everything go?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I'll sign up for. I'm like, chill, bro. I'm good.
No.
I'm good. But, but anyway, like, that's the story. It's like, things are going to get progressively worse, and then you're going to have basically the last 7 years of world history is just going to be hell on earth. Mm-hmm. And so that's called the Great Tribulation.
Right.
It's
going on. It's going to go on for 7 years.
7 years. Yeah.
The first 3.5 is like the worst. The first 3.5 is not as bad as the last 3.5.
Yeah. That's Perkinoz. Perkinoz knows what we're
But to be honest with you, I always got confused. I understood the timeline and what they were trying to say, but when they lined it up with verses, it always seemed like it was trying to put a square into a circular hole. I always got lost partway through the way that they were explaining it. I was like, man, but I never ever, this is crazy, but I never thought that the theology was wrong. I thought, I just can't understand this. I always thought that until I met you, and I was like, okay. There are other ways of looking at this, because I didn't consider the other ways, even though they were spoken about. They were never spoken about like seriously. You're the only person that I ever saw be like, okay, these are the different ideas, and really put all the ideas forward in the best, clearest way to make the case for each group. Yeah. That's the only time I've ever seen that before. But yeah.
Davey's like, so it's similar to deployment. Yeah, the Great Tribulation is similar to deployment. It only gets worse.
It only gets worse from here. And the last half is worse than the first half.
Nah, you're just doing admin work for your last couple of weeks. It's just stay back there. No.
Yeah, but maybe that's worse for some people.
Yeah, man. But I think what they're doing is they're taking that kind of thing and talking about like what's happening in the modern day. Like if you look at what she's saying lyrically here, like people holding on to anger, people holding on to unforgiveness, like
and fear. Don't give in to all the fear.
Yeah, like so like right now it says this is full annihilation, just given to our fate, it will destroy all dignity. We can't escape, there will be no absolution. Do not breathe in all the grief. Trust your instinct, it'll always guide the way. Like I think they're trying to come up with something positive for navigating the world we're in right now. Because the world we're in right now is crazy. And one of the things that's crazy to me, later Luminous, one of the things that's crazy to me about the world we're currently in is like how easy it is to sway millions of people to believe, act, think, or even feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. Like that to me is like, that's why they're like, oh, trust your instinct. I'm like, I don't know, bro.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Because like you gotta question where your instincts are coming from.
Exactly. And we just talked yesterday about like getting yourself in certain groups of people that makes you think the entire world thinks like you do. And I think there's a lot of people in that situation that don't say, hey, let me listen to the other side, or let me listen to people outside of my crew. I think it's...
Yeah, I don't think that this thing where people disappear and then the Antichrist shows up and all that. No, I don't believe in that at all. And neither does the New Testament. But like, here's the thing that gets me is like these people, these very bad people, are banking on us operating from our instincts.
Yep.
And one of the main things that separates us from animals is the fact that we can operate outside of our instincts. Like, ooh, that's a pretty lady. I have a certain kind of instinct. But there's something about being a human being that says, nope, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. But if you can think this through with me, if you can master human instinct by observation and data, you can predict how people are going to respond to given stimuli. So like one thing, for example, would be most people don't like bullies beating up the underdog. Most people don't like that. So if I wanted to go after a country, right? Let's say I wanted to go after country X, and I wanted to keep them in perpetual war, and I wanted to make it so that they couldn't compete with me economically on the world stage, particularly in the area of like gas and oil, for example, right? So let's say how do I want to fuck that country up and get away with it? Well, I could instigate and push and instigate a situation to where that country X flubs up and does something crazy and does, let's say, invades country Y. Now, country Y has also been doing a lot of dirt.
This sounds familiar.
Been killing a lot of people in country X, but I know that regular people don't know that in this country. And so I can manufacture an entire situation and create all of this emotional sort of fervor. And your instinct as a human being to fight for the little guy, or to support the little guy, or to despise the bully. Mm-hmm. Like, you get 10 people in a room, 8 of them can't stand a bully, 1 of them is a bully, and then the other one just doesn't care. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I could say, okay, that's how they're going to react to this situation. So if we frame the story this way, we will get support. We will be able to fuck with this country, and they'll be so bogged down in a war that they won't be able to compete with us. And we can have that as a template for the next country that tries to compete with us economically. We've already got a template, and let's put it out into the ether that this next country is also going to be the problem. So if you just go by your instincts, you have no hope. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of these people are banking on. Like, they're banking on the idea that we're just going to go by our instincts and we're not going to, like, go above the emotionalism that they're trying to manipulate us with.
Right.
Like, you know, like you saw it with 9/11. Like, 9/11 happened, and you turn on Fox News, and no disrespect to Fox News, because everybody knows how I feel about all these outlets, but, like, every 2 seconds, it was the planes crashing into the building over, and then the next thing is you get a bunch of Green Berets jumping out of a striker about to do work. Well, you put those two images together. They did that on purpose. Mm-hmm. The whole thing was to get young people who were emotional about their country being attacked for no reason other than they love our freedom. Well, if you're a young fighting age male and somebody goes after your country and you see your countrymen constantly jumping out of windows and shit to escape that shit, what do your instincts tell you?
Your instincts are going to tell you to go fight.
I'll tell you what my instincts fight. No,
join immediately.
No, not fight. We're killing motherfuckers. Like, people gonna die. No, there's a difference between fighting and killing. Trust me. So, my point is, like, be careful about following your instincts. Mm-hmm. Be careful, because people much smarter than you and I understand how humans operate in certain situations, and they're banking on us following our instincts.
Yep.
Because they're banking on us not believing in ourselves, you know. You saw this in other situations. Grandma's like, yo, this is this horrible thing that's happening, and it came about in a bat market, in a wet market. These bats, you know, and the bats that did it, and it wasn't our gain of function research. And did you hear what Fauci said? Fauci said that it could have been a natural lab leak. Shout out to Fauci. He's probably the Antichrist.
Seriously.
He's probably the Antichrist.
A natural lab leak?
That's what he...
What the fuck even is that? There's literally nothing natural about a lab. Hello?
Literally a contradiction.
You really must think we are just morons.
But you saw... But literally, that's what the CDC said. The CDC said we could not publish these reports because people would misinterpret it. So, like, they get to play psychology. Like, that's not why we're... That's not your function.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to be careful about following your instincts, man. I think, I would say the opposite. I think you have to follow your principles. And you got to have principles that you're going to stick to, so that when the onslaught of the psychological warfare comes in to try to convince you to support war or to support, violating people's, civil rights, all the rest. Oh, you stay inside. Where am I? Like, yo, you got to have some principles, and those principles have to be garnered from, you got to understand the experience. That's my thing about these situations, is like, I'm just gathering data, man. If you look at Middle America, if you look at the comment section, like during Russiagate, it was all one thing. COVID, it was all one thing. Now it's this, it's like, and the only thing that frustrates me is like, yo, can we learn?
Yeah.
Can we learn? Like...
That's the whole thing.
That's been my thing. It's like, yo, we're not learning. Like, it's mind-boggling to me. 2 years ago, like, I put this up on Middle America.
I feel like that's because there's always somebody to blame. So, like, we never accept responsibility for our own gullibility or anything in a situation. We just want to be like, oh, it was those people that lied to us. It was those people that did this. It was just everybody else, instead of saying, okay, well, how come I believed that? How come I have the internet and I can research what the things that I want, but I didn't know that information. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah. That's the other.
But if we don't get to the point where we accept responsibility, we're never going to be able to grow past it.
But that's the other instinct they're banking on. They're banking on our own ego. I cannot tell you how many people during the whole Russiagate situation, blah, 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 and I'm like, yo, I'm not seeing it, I'm not seeing it. And now we all know the whole thing was bullshit. To this day, people will not admit I got duped. And so they feel embarrassed or whatever, and then they project that embarrassment out and double down on it because they don't want to admit, because everybody has a little public stage now. So you said all types of crazy shit in public. You know, Rachel Maddow's talking about how Trump, Putin was going to freeze us out in Fargo, and people were going to die of hypothermia, like all types of crazy shit.
That.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. It's like people said all kinds of crazy shit, and my thing is like, yo, admit that you're wrong, not so that you can, you know, whatever. It's so that you can not get duped again. But they understand human nature. Like, our instinct is to defend ourselves and defend our ego before everything. Before we are verbal, we are all egomaniacs. So it's like, don't. My thing would be, don't trust your instinct. Your instinct is probably wrong on the situation, and people observing you can manipulate you if you operate by your instincts. That's why we can train dogs. That's why we can train animals. It's because we know they're not going to operate outside of their instincts. And so we can manipulate situations around their instincts to get them to do what we want. That's what's happening. So I would say, no, have your principles and make sure your principles are rooted in some sort of way of ascertaining ultimate reality, and then stick to those principles. And that's why, like, I'm very big on, like, retractions and publicly retracting things or whatever if I'm wrong on one, just because, you know, I want to maintain that principle, and I don't want to let the bad guys use my ego against me. So if I was wrong, I'm going to come out and say, yo, I was wrong here, because it's really, really important to me that I'm not one of those people that can get manipulated. That it's not because I'm a humble guy. Like, anybody that knows me knows I'm not a humble guy. I just come out and say I'm wrong for a bunch of reasons. One is to keep myself accountable. If you don't like the feeling of saying that you're wrong in public, then maybe next time before you start saying shit in public, you do a little bit more reading and research. But if you won't do that, then you can always just willy-nilly go along with the spirit of the age, man, and what the media wants you to believe and everything. Like, I'm watching this Twitter thing, man, and they were like, we only censored illegal speech. And it turned out to be Robert Kennedy Jr. And he was speculating on Hank Aaron's death relative to the jab. That's not illegal speech. But that tells you the mindset of these people. It's illegal to them because we contradicted their narrative. Oh, so there's just a lot of it. There's just a lot of it, man. And like, I love the point of the song is to, like, not let these people trick you, not let it get you down, not go along with them, maintaining human dignity. All that shit is important. And it's life or death, man. It's absolutely life or death. And, you know, it's just, it's crazy to me. Like, we have these back-to-back crises, and they all, like, literally follow one another, and we're not getting it. We had 4 years of Russiagate bullshit, and nobody's thinking to themselves like, this is interesting. We spent 4 years not only on Russiagate on the Trump side, but think about what it did to the American mind relative to Russian people for those 4 years. Think. So now you're trained to believe that all Russia is bad. Anything relative to Russia is bad. So then it just so happens that as soon as Trump's out, now Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine. And now you've got a populace of Americans who've been trained for 4 years that anything relative to Russia is bad. So you're not going to even consider what their motivations were, why they were, because you've been hearing for 4 years that this guy's the Antichrist and our president's in bed with him. And then we started this McCarthyism to where anybody that said anything pro-Russia at all was a Russian agent. And and forget it, it wasn't even like pro-Russia. Is if you denied Russiagate, they would call you a Russian agent. I got people right now in my comment section a couple of years ago calling me a Russian agent. Okay? But forget about that. Forget about how you feel about Trump. Forget about that. Think. For 4 years, you were prepped to believe that these were the worst people on earth. Then last year, the invasion happens, and then you spend $140 billion when we're at the brink of a recession. Think.
Our own babies were going through
Is that
formula shortages.
Is that coincidental? Is it coincident? We had a fucking formula shortage. We spent $140 billion.
Come on.
And nobody is like asking this question like, well, there's Yemen, there's all these other places. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, it's so obvious, like, what we're doing.
Yep.
Oh, the Russians destroyed their own pipeline. Really?
Yeah, I was literally just going to say that.
And look, I'm not shedding any tears for that dude, bro. Like, I'm not shedding any tears for Vladimir Putin because none of that shit is going to happen to him. It's regular Russian people. Like, the shit that happened to people, you had a Twitch streamer. She was Russian. They shut everything down. They shut down our PayPal. Like, there was economic warfare declared on regular Russian people. It had fucking nothing to do with it. At the beginning, Biden was bragging about, oh, they're going to have a hard winter. Why do I want Russian civilians to have a hard winter, bro?
Right. Yeah.
What did they do to me?
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is there was stuff that we, like, the Ukrainians tying people to poles and the stuff that they were doing, like, shaming people, like, stripping them and spanking them publicly, like, adults, like, people tied to poles, telephone pole. It was just, I was so sickened when I saw that, like, the humiliation of your own people, and then you had to ask the question, for what? For what are you tying the people to the poles like this for? You know, and then other people couldn't stop it because if you did, you'd end up in the same. That to me is really like, but that was never publicized, so most people don't even know that it was happening. So it's like, okay, why are they curating it this way to make it look like, look, there's no complete good guys and there's no complete bad guys. Like, people are doing both, and you have to be aware of what's happening and looking into it. And our country is doing things too to make themselves look like they're good when they're doing stuff on the side too.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yo, in 2-3 years, it's gonna be China, and everybody's gonna hate China, and if you say, I don't really know, I don't really have a problem with China, you're gonna be a China agent and all the rest. It's that simple. Like, that's where we're at, and I'm telling y'all, if you want to avoid World War III, you better start using your akal, as my Muslim friends say. And you gotta stop. You gotta stop going with your instincts and your emotions, man, because these people are master manipulators. They are, but they don't have a very broad palette. It's the same thing over and over again with these people. So if you could just have some principles that you're gonna hold to and stay to those principles, it's gonna be good. If not, we're done.
Yep.
It's that simple. And if you don't see how all of us have been manipulated for the last 6 years, I don't care who you are, we've all been manipulated and lied to.
Yep.
You know, this whole idea of like, oh, conspiracy theory. It's like, what do you mean? Like, to me, it's like, what is a conspiracy theory? Okay, it's the idea that people in power are going to abuse their power in such a way as to do things that are detrimental to the people that are beneath them. That's what a conspiracy theory is. If you don't believe in any conspiracy theories, what you're believing in is the essential goodwill and almost sinless perfection of people in power. Like, really? People in power, they're all good people, and they don't want to do anything to maintain that power, and they don't want to do anything to control and influence people. Everything's just above board. Like, once you join the U.S. Senate and all the rest of it, like, it's weird because everybody's like, you can't trust a politician, but then when you say, yeah, because they make plans that are pretty nefarious, they go, oh, you conspiracy. It's like,
yeah.
Well, what? It's like, oh, John Gotti, that guy, he's a mobster. Oh, we're gonna get him on racketeering and conspiracy. Oh, conspiracy. Oh, I guess I'm part of the conspiracy. Yes, you're fucking John Gotti. Yes, you're in the fucking mafia. Yes,
right.
Like, hello, like, we all know politicians are liars. Well, what do you think happens when a bunch of manipulative rich liars get together? You don't think they're gonna?
They lie. They lie some
it's
more.
Unbelievable.
They get together and create more lies.
It's mind-boggling.
Yep.
It's absolutely mind-boggling. I love you all. 9.5.
Great song. Oh, that's so weird. 9.5 is also what I picked. And if you scroll up in the comment section, someone else gave it a 9.5. It is officially a 9.5.
There you are, dear listener.
All right, more to come, you guys.
We shall return. We shall return. I am predicting the future. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone. Holy schmaloli. What a song. They went for it. All right, guys, we are coming right back. There is more metal on the